Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mom and Pop Eateries Grey Bruce. I'm your host, Rob Leonard. We've been all over Grey and Bruce counties for the past, about 7 or 8 weeks now. We're going to head back to Owen Sound, and a great little spot in King's Auto Service. Everybody knows where that is, right at the corner of 8th. Is it 8th or is it 9th? I'm sorry, 8th Street and 3rd Avenue East is the home of Bombshell Stella's and Heather Morris. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you today. So, all right, let's talk about the history of Bombshell Stella's. Where did it all start?
So Bombshell started 3 years ago. This is our 3rd year. The first year we were in business, we opened in Shelburne, which is near where I was living at the time. And then last year, I decided to move back to Owen Sound, and I brought the food truck with me, obviously. So this is our 2nd year in Owen Sound.
All right. So 2 years in Owen Sound, and you've made one heck of an impact. Your truck is just amazing looking. Yeah.
Thank you.
The graphics and everything on it are so appealing and so attractive. But then once I started following you on Facebook and seeing the food, I haven't had a chance to get there to try it yet. But man, you put together some amazing stuff. So in that vein, let's talk about your menu.
Sure. So the menu, everything is as locally sourced as possible. This year in particular, I've partnered with a local butcher out of Chatsworth with Moore's Meats. And so he's able to get me fresh meat guaranteed, which is certainly a very grateful thing to have happen in the midst of sort of what's going on in the world out there. So grocery shopping issues that regular folks have, restaurant folks have the same as well. So it's very good to have that sort of partnership so I can ensure that supply chain and make sure that our menu stays as consistent as possible. From him, we get all of our ground beef, our pork, and our chicken, which is all locally sourced. So we do a homemade burger called the Weapon Burger. We take that chicken and do it a couple different ways. One of our staples or our signatures, I guess, is our buffalo chicken. We do a taco seasoned loaded poutine and grilled cheese. So that's also with ground beef. He does all of our fresh cut bacon, and then we have all of our pulled pork from him as well. So
that's amazing.
The theme of our menu is primarily poutines and grilled cheeses. So we will stuff those grilled cheeses with all sorts of things, and then those same things we'll put on top of a loaded poutine as well. So that's probably the pictures that you see that you're following.
Oh, it's just incredible. It's I'll tell you, just looking at the pictures have put a few pounds on me. We can blame it on COVID, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Stretchy pants are completely acceptable right now.
Yeah. Okay. So now, and again, so important to shop locally and for you to support the Moore's Meats in particular. But in these times when everyone is struggling, it's not just the restaurant business. It's basically everybody that supplies the restaurant business. So by you keeping that local and keeping the money in the community is a great thing to do.
And it's not just with those products, too. I've got another lady, her name is Shauna Harvey. She's a chef, and I was fortunate enough to be able to benefit from her teaching and experience when I opened this year. She owns a sauce company, so she makes the most amazing barbecue sauces and hot sauces. And because her restaurant wasn't open when I was able to, she was able to come on board and help me staff the truck as well. So not only have we been able to support local through our suppliers, but have some of those folks in the truck to help us launch this year too. So she's put some amazing twists on a lot of recipes. We ran with a butter chicken for a few weeks. That was just out of this world. And she keeps giving me kind of new ideas and options every time we try to run a special. She's up for the task of making us a custom sauce for our pulled pork. She'll make us custom sauces for whatever specials we come up with. So we've had some great local talent that have been able to come into the truck this year too.
That networking is so important, as you say, and helping you come up with new ideas as well, and educating you and your customers are the beneficiaries of all of that cooperation. So, and that's the thing. That's where one of the things that makes a mom and pop different. And no offense to the chain restaurants, but they're fixed on what they're doing, what they can do, specifications on the menu. Whereas you can use someone like the lady you mentioned and create all of these new ideas, and it keeps the business fresh in my estimation.
Absolutely, and her flavor profiles are very different than kind of the go-to ones that I was building. So it was something that I would have never come up with on my own, and certainly not to the caliber that she brought to the table. So that's been fantastic to help us get new customers, to reach different customers that may otherwise not have tried to go to the truck. And we're continuing to do that. So I think this will be Sunday by the time folks are looking at it. So if anyone comes to the truck today when they see this episode, I'll have another new chef that's starting with me too. And he brings another different flavor profile with him, more kind of high-class pub foods, if you would. So we're still trying to mix it up a little bit and figure out kind of some of those unique and different things that different folks can bring to the table. And I would absolutely love to feature that and their talent out of the truck too.
Now, when I was in college to get my chef's papers, I remember one of the things one of the professors said to me, and he said, our job as chefs is to educate, not to dictate. So it sounds to me like you're living proof of that adage, because you're starting off with the basic idea and giving the locals what they want, but you're bringing in all this talent to educate your customer even further.
And the depth of talent is seriously amazing. Never when I was doing any of the business planning would I ever have thought that I would have been able to afford this kind of talent or to have the opportunity to partner with this level of talent, especially locally. So for me, that's been really interesting and really exciting to have that learning opportunity and moment from these folks as well. So that's something I didn't go into this expecting, but I'm very much thankful for having that opportunity.
That's fantastic. And as I said, I spent 32 years cooking, and mainly in Grey County, Owen Sound area and stuff. And there really are a lot of very talented owners, but a lot of very talented young chefs out there. And some of us old dogs can learn a few tricks from those young people too. So that really puts a smile on my face for the future of the culinary industry in Grey and Bruce counties. And as I said, once I started this page, there were a lot of places I'd never even heard of before, but just incredible talent, as you say. So many interesting places that once things calm down a little bit, I'll probably have to take like a 2-week road trip in order to get to all of them.
Definitely have your stretchy pants packed too, I would suggest. So make sure you've got comfy clothes, your Thanksgiving outfit if you would.
Me in stretchy pants? I don't think so. I don't think Darlene's back in the studio. She wouldn't want to see that, I don't think. So,
edit it from like the top up, couldn't you?
Kind of like I am right now, yeah.
Right.
Anyway, forget it. All right, we're not going now. All right, so let's talk about your business. I would imagine you're seasonal. When do you open? When do you close?
So again, very seasonally affected. So last year, I think we closed September 29th. That's when we had snow shortly thereafter. So my water lines come above ground. So if there's any risk of freezing, then unfortunately the truck isn't kitted out to operate in the winter. So then kind of opposite to that, I can open as soon as the risk of a deep freeze is passed. So this year I was able to start the very, very end of April, 1st of May timeframe. And then when we'll close is completely dependent on how snowy and how soon it happens this year.
And it's, when you say open, it's not just as easy as sticking a key in the door and turning the equipment on. There's a lot that goes into it. And I remember seeing on Facebook, you had a few bumps in the road at the beginning of this season, aside from the COVID.
Yeah, we definitely had a few obstacles to get through. There's some amazing community support with 99% of the folks that are around us, but unfortunately, there is a small cohort of people that didn't really want to see change, and they didn't really want a food truck in their neighborhood. So we definitely had some issues with some vandalism, with some bullying stuff. So I'm very fortunate in that community support that I have, and those folks definitely came out, and I was very much afforded a lot of help to get started this year. So my plumbing, the stuff, anything that was vandalized, there was some amazing, talented tradespeople locally that stepped up and helped me get through all of that so that we could open on time.
And that was the point of my question, because I remember you being so grateful for the local community. It got behind you and they helped you through that tough time. So again, another indication of how the community feels about you, but again, showing the community of Owen Sound and the big hearts that exist there.
And I think for me, like financially, we would have figured out a way to get through it, but it was more the support factor. So when you go through any kind of incident of bullying or something like that happens, you really have to do a gut check and a value proposition to figure out, is this worth it? Is this worth the stress and the aggravation and the money, all those things? It was definitely, I needed that support, I think, more than anything, just to know that this was a business that people wanted to get behind and were willing to support, and willing to support me to keep going forward with it in spite of or regardless of all of that stuff. So certainly that was completely overwhelming, extremely humbling. I'm eternally grateful to the folks that stepped up. So there's definitely, if you ever need a plumber, I can give you some fantastic recommendations. And I've got a welder that made me some guarding and some fencing. So just folks that I've never met before, and the amazing things that they did for me was extremely humbling.
And again, it's another indication of the talent that there is in Graham Bruce counties. There's so many talented people in so many different areas. You know, with the page, I'm seeing everybody's posts every single day, and there was one restaurant in particular. I can't remember exactly who it was now, but they had to shut down because their exhaust hood wasn't working, and we know that if your exhaust hood isn't working, the health department won't allow you to open. Plus, it's not safe. It's uncomfortable. But within hours, there was a list of this restaurant owner went on and thanked a list of about 4 or 5 different local businesses who all came together and got him up and running again. Within hours, he was back in business. So yeah. And
for me, like I'd made that post back at the start of our season, and I had several plumbers reach out. I literally picked kind of the first one, and he asked for pictures of the system, and then the very next day he showed up with an entire new system. So he was able to kit everything out, from the holding tank, the transfer pump, everything from the truck to the building. They were phenomenal. Like, there's no way I could have been able to do that on my own in the middle of a pandemic, to find parts, to find labor. So our community is fantastic. So I've heard of a couple other stories of restaurants that have had, equipment go down, and they too can't speak highly enough about the local folks that have reached out and, like you said, within hours offered support to get them back up and running again.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't surprise me at all. Mind you, as long as it's not hunting season. If it's hunting season, I don't know, you may have to wait a little longer.
Good point.
Okay, so now let's talk about the changes that have happened. I know, as just being an employee at a restaurant, what my bosses and my owners had to go through over the past, I guess it's 3, 4, or 5 months now, with all the changes. Now, being that you haven't got a dining room, and it was just announced that dining rooms can open, but does it affect you, or does it not? In all honesty, COVID hasn't really affected us much at all from a process and procedure standpoint. Because we're a food truck, we do have a whole hockey sock of different regulations than a brick and mortar would. Further to that, because I regularly pull that truck and operate on an Army base,
I already exceeded the basic kind of civilian, if you would, specifications for operation for that food truck. So as far as COVID, with the increased procedures and social distancing, the nature of our business was very conducive to what was already in place. So we didn't have to adjust a whole lot. As far as washing our hands, that was already in my procedures and my expectations for how staff operated. Our sanitation and sterilization already was in exceedance of what was required. What changed for me, the biggest change, was having the condiment table on the outside of the truck where folks would have, a communal pump of ketchup or mustard, or everyone would dispense from the same container of vinegar. So we switched from all of those to single serve packaging. So now we ask folks what toppings and sides they want with everything, and we provide them in packages. That was probably the single biggest change and shift that we've had to do procedurally. And then second to that certainly was the cost associated with operating right now. So my wages had to increase proportional to the CERB benefit that was being paid out. So if I couldn't pay more than what folks could reasonably expect to earn off of that benefit, I couldn't get staffing. So staffing has been probably the single most difficult challenge I've had this year, is to find folks that want to work and to make it a financially advantageous proposition for them to want to come work for me.
And that's been a common thread everywhere, really, in the business. A lot of people, if they're not making, the $2,000 that they're getting from CERB, they're just not going to go back to work.
Exactly.
Me personally, after 3 weeks of sitting at home, I cannot do this. I need to get back to work. I practically begged my boss to let me come back. So, and it really is a different world for us who, as you said, it really didn't change things much for you, and it really didn't for a lot of takeout businesses. A lot of them were reporting increases in business because of COVID. So now, do you, as far as this, the wage subsidy goes with the government, do you think that's been effective? Has that really helped in your instance?
We didn't qualify for anything. So we were like some of those other businesses. And I think to qualify for a lot of those grants, you needed to be able to show a 30% reduction in gross. And for us, given the limited number of takeout options, I couldn't demonstrate that. So we didn't qualify for any of those initial grants and loans. I did reach out to our local MPP because there was also a caveat that you had to run a proper business bank account. And our banking was different because my business partner is military. So we have a Department of National Defense Bank of Montreal bank account, which still pays into CRA and still does all of the legal requirements. However, it's different than that singular bullet point on the requirements or the criteria to access the grant money that's available right now. So we haven't been able to benefit from any of that.
Okay, so, and there's been many stories of, let's say, people or businesses that fell through the cracks in some of the decisions that were made. And it sounds like in this instance, you were one of those businesses. So, but again, you having to battle, all the things that you've battled, including this, but you still have a super successful business running in downtown Owen Sound.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there's too much riding on it. There's too many partnerships, and it's too important for all the things that we do outside of the food component. So the community support, the outreach, it's really critically important to me that truck stays a safe place where folks know that they can go, and if they need help and if they need some guidance and direction from more of a socioeconomic perspective, that they know that they can come to me. So regardless of all the obstacles, failure is not an option for this. There's too many people that rely on it being there.
I love that. That's amazing. All right. So on that note, you and I had a discussion yesterday, and I'm going to read from this piece of paper because I want to get your quote exactly right. You said, "I feel like the truck is merely the vessel that allows the other stuff to happen. So now we're going to talk about the other stuff that you said in that quote. So and so we're going to talk about your charity that is very, very important to you. And you have a friend along, I believe his name is Michael Terry.
I do, yeah.
Can we get Mike to squeeze in there?
The enter stage left sort of thing here.
Enter stage left, and there's Michael Terry. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Rob. Good to be here.
All right. So let's talk about Dispatch's Adventure Ride. Tell us all about that.
All right. So I'm a 23-year veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces. I retired in 2018, and I've been affected by PTSD since about 2001. So as soon as I left the military, as soon as I left that culture, my struggles with PTSD immediately got exponentially worse. So what I started to do was I started to speak out publicly about the struggles that I have, because minimization and kind of hiding it and managing it were kind of par for the course for almost 20 years. And it's like that for a lot of people. So I started to open up about it, talk about it, and just started to encourage other people to do the same thing. And the approach I took to that was I bought a motorcycle and I toured Canada for 2.5 months, just trying to reach out to people and talk about it. And yeah, it really just, it was healing for me. I had a lot of people who reached out and said it had a strong impact on them. So yeah, that's continued to grow over the last 3 years. And it was actually Heather who got in touch. She was looking to support a veterans charity, and she knew me. And once she saw what I was doing, and she asked me to come out and if she could do some fundraising last year. So I came out to her grand opening, and they did a little bit of fundraising. And suddenly, for some reason, we decided to do a charity ride here in Owen Sound on very short notice, about 3 weeks. And we partnered up with Fox Harley Davidson. And that was a pretty big success for a ride that was thrown together just in literally a few weeks. So we did it again in September out of Borden, out of Canadian Forces Base Borden in Angus. And yeah, it's just kind of grown from there. So that turned into, we called it Bomb the Bruce, because, the Bruce Peninsula, Grey Bruce County being a pretty big motorcycle destination. And yeah, so we're running it, I guess the time of airing will be yesterday on the 18th, Saturday the 18th. And it has turned into quite an event. We're expecting well over 100 bikes to come, spread out throughout the day, so we can keep up with the COVID-19 restrictions. But the local support from Fox Harley Davidson, support from just local riders, and the motorcycle community in Southwestern and Southern Ontario as well, has been incredible. But what has been really overwhelming is the local business support for this event. I don't even know how many raffle prizes have been donated at this point. But the funds raised from this ride go to the Canadian Veteran Freedom Riders of Meaford, and that money directly benefits veterans in this community who are in need. And they're able to supply support very quickly without a lot of bureaucracy. So somebody who's in crisis can get support really quickly through this organization. And yeah, the local support for dispatches, for Bombshell Stellas, and for the Bomb the Bruce ride has been absolutely overwhelming. So it's yeah.
So before this ride even happens, we've handed over just shy of $2,300, I think, already, that we raised in the first couple months the truck was open. And so that would have gone to, like Mike said, folks that were in an urgent crisis in our community. I have had some of those folks that were the recipients or the beneficiaries actually identify themselves to the truck. So that's certainly overwhelming that's not why we're doing this, and that's not an expectation of what we have done. But again, those folks have come out to the truck and kind of let it be known that they received some of that assistance and support, and have kind of shown their gratitude as well. So that's just been an extra motivation for us to keep doing what we're doing and try to raise as much as we can. I mean, all charities are certainly impacted right now because of this pandemic, but in particular, this one has lost their golf tournaments and the things that would have generated the most amount of funds that would have gone back into our community. So we're one of the only events that have been able to figure out some workarounds during this pandemic so that we can still do this event and raise those funds.
And I think this is absolutely fantastic, because anybody that follows the news sees it's been a real battle for our veterans to get the proper recognition, let's say, financially and otherwise through the federal government. It's almost like, and I've had a couple of people that I know that have served, and they come back home and it's basically kind of left on your own, you know what I mean? So I think this event has got the earmarks of something that could turn into something huge. I can't. You have another event coming up in Collingwood, I believe, on September 18th. Is that right?
12th, I
September
think.
12th.
September 12th.
12th.
We're still playing with the map on that one. And a lot will depend on sort of what phase we're in with this pandemic and what's allowed. So we haven't formalized that route yet, but our intention is to do a second ride like we did last year. We just need to figure out some logistics a little closer to the date.
Well, and all of these, some of the greatest events that happen start off with that $2,300 initial money raised. But I honestly feel, and I have a world of respect, and everybody says thank you for your service, okay? But let's really thank you for your service, all right? And be there to support you and to support all of the veterans in their time of need. You were there for us. We need to be there for you. And as you said, Bruce County is a big bike area. I work not far from Fox Chrysler Fox Harley Davidson, and the amount of motorcycles, Harley Davidsons that you would see come into that area in the summertime is just phenomenal. So, but as you said, COVID rules have maybe changed things a little bit. And okay, we've got 1 minute left. All right, so I got the producer in my ear, Mark Bear. Okay, we got 1 minute left. So let's take that minute, and if you want to say some thank yous to anybody in particular out there, I want to thank yous for being here today. But you go ahead and any thank yous you'd like to give.
I guess I'll start because I'm getting the side eye. Well, definitely thank you to Fox Harley Davidson for hosting our ride for the second year. They are a huge, that's a huge link to the motorcycle community. Everybody knows where Fox Harley Davidson is, and that has helped us launch really. It's been a great launch pad for us. So they've been a huge help. I don't have time to list every local business. There's no way I could, but.
They're all listed on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut you short, folks. We got 10 seconds, and I know there's a ton of businesses out there. Let's just thank everybody across the board that's helped out. I want to thank you, Michael Terry, for being here today. Heather Morris, I promise you I'm coming to visit. I swear I'm coming to visit. All right, thank you so much. Bombshell Stella's at the corner of 8th Street East and 3rd Avenue East in Owen Sound. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your host, Rob Leonard.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Are you the type who would keep going or stop? It's not easy to stop when you have an addiction. Legalizing cannabis won't stop addiction. It trivializes its consumption. Let's be vigilant. If you need help, visit portage.ca.
Sit back and enjoy.
That's why we play hockey, because of this moment.